Alright, so we're looking at yet another example game here with our Colossal Fiend deck. This is just a real smooth game I wanted to show you guys for how this deck can really, pull it out and dominate. So opening hand, good not great. We do have two lands. They're both red. That's good because the deck is very red focused. But there is no green land for the Colossal Might or the Explorer. Hopefully we can draw into that off the start. So we're going to just pass the first couple turns here. Opponent starts out with a Traveler's Amulet. One of the better options that you have in Standard Pauper, to say the very least, for mana fixing, where there are not a lot of good options. So now we're on the first draw. We do hit a Neonate, not our green land, but that's okay because we still have a turn to play here. Now, there are a lot of choices here. I talked in one of my other videos about the situations where playing Colossal Fiend is best on your turn 2, and others where Neonate is. Here, my opponent is playing blue control. It may be a better idea to get the Colossal Fiend in play, but here's my thoughts on the situation. When all I've seen so far is blue, I'm assuming my opponent is playing counter control. Now, with Colossal Fiend on the field, he's going to be able to attack every turn and get damage in. However, you're not necessarily going to be able to get off spells like the Colossal Might. They will trigger the ability, but they're not always going to get the additional the additional trample and +4/+2. So what I decided to do in this game is play the Neonate first. Usually, if you're playing blue control, they don't have a lot of options once a creature actually gets onto the board. So I feel like that's a good situation for this vampire. The creature is on the board. He's probably going to stay on the board for a while. Blue control is a creature light deck, so it gives me an opportunity to, at least attempt to get a lot of damage in with this Neonate and see how big it can get. Now my opponent plays a forest. A little disappointing because I was expecting, blue control at this point. Still, a not so bad play. We still have the Neonate. He's not going to be able to play a creature probably at 1 blue, and if it's a Delver, he's probably not going to block. Does use the amulet, fetches out a Plains, but he will not be able to play it just yet, so we'll keep that quite open. Now he does play a Life Staff, and I talked in my other video, Life Staff is one of those horrible cards to face. If you do not have artifact removal, it can get kind of out of hand with that 3 life gain. Luckily, I do have a 10 Street Hooligan, so as soon as I get a forest, I will be able to make that play. Here I do top deck on turn 3 my 3rd land. That's great, so I'm not going to miss the mana drop. And I'm going to be able to play this Hooligan and get rid of that Life Staff, as well as attack through with the Vampire, which will get a +1/+1 counter since my opponent is tapped out with no creatures. It's a really good situation to be in. You can handle that Life Staff and get this, like I said, pretty much getting it to a 4/3 is where you want to be for a good starting creature. Now my opponent plays an Auramancer. He can use this to chump block the Vampire following turn, but I luckily have a Colossal Might, so we're going to get to the attack phase first before we decide to make another play, whether it's the Colossal Fiend or an Explorer. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm also going to attack with the Hooligan. Gives an option if he does decide block with that on the off chance. If he doesn't, I'm still getting that 2 additional damage in. You have to sit here and think, if you're your opponent, and you're sitting across from these 2 red creatures, what I would personally do is try and block the Neonate to kill it, and so you're going to be able to sneak through 2 damage on that Hooligan. And he does make the kind of the smart play, the only play and block that. Unfortunately for him, I do have the Colossal Might. It's going to pump up. You see here the Vampire is now a 7/4 Trampler. He's going to do 5 damage to my opponent and kill off that Auramancer. And gets that second counter. Now, it's kind of an interesting play. I think he put this Auramancer in place simply to deal with this Vampire, as he did not have anything to return from his graveyard with that triggered enchantment ability. So now we have a situation where I have the Colossal Fiends and Explore. An argument can be made for either play at this point in time. I do go with the Colossal Fiend, just so next turn it will be off Summoning Sickness, and if I'm in that situation again, I can play an Explore, or maybe I've gotten something better, I can get an Outburst, and that'll be a strong play. You could have played Explore, but you're sitting with these 2 Fiends, you kind of want to get them at least past the Summoning Sickness turn so they can start doing some damage. My opponent now exiles the Auramancer. Perhaps a good backup plan that he had in place, gets the Stitch Drake in play. Now this is going to be a little bit of trouble. He is going to be able to block this Vampire, which will be forced to attack on my next turn. um, and kill it, but he's going to have to trade the Drake for it. So I am going to, at this point in time, I want to attack with all three of these creatures, give him other options to block. Now, if you're in his position, probably not going to block the Hooligan, but by pumping up the Kiln Fiend, by playing the Explorer, I've put him in a situation where, he's got a 4/2 creature to block, and he may decide that it is more beneficial to him to stop this Kiln Fiend than it is the Vampire. But you attack at this point and see how it plays out, and from there you can decide whether you want to play the Hound or the second Fiend. So we're going to swing with all of these, and he actually does make kind of an interesting choice. One I might have made. I do like to do things like this sometimes. He decides to block Hooligan to prevent this damage. It's going to kill the Hooligan, the Drake's going to be alive and be able to chump block next turn. Unfortunately, what this also does is makes my Vampire a 5/4, putting it completely out of range of the Drake, killing it. I guess what he was thinking might have done if I was him, and made that block, is hope to, on the next turn, use the Stitch Drake to block the Fiend and kill the Fiend and keep the Drake alive, and then chump block the Blood-Crazed Neonite, and hope that there's some better answer for it. But that's his call. I still think perhaps the better choice would have been to trade the Drake for the Vamp. He is in kind of a bad situation when I have this Kiln Fiend and the ability to pump it. Now we are going to tap out. I am deciding to play the Hound. I could have played the other Kiln Fiend. Pretty much interchangeable at this point. He's at 3 life. He needs to play at least one creature or a kill spell to deal with this. So no matter what I played there, it was going to be game. Without him playing a second or third creature. So you see here, he did not play it. He gets the revealed card. Now this is game over. He says GG. You can't see it, it's off screen, but I do misclick. I forgot to attack with the Hound, and this puts him in a situation where he can just block this Vampire and gives him an extra turn to find an answer. Perhaps, it's not so bad, because it would be hard, I think, for this point in the game for him to find an answer for this. But, it's a stupid move. You should not have done it in the first place. But he is going to be able to chump block the Vampire. Let's just fast forward my misstep here. And I've basically given him an extra turn to find an answer. I do play the Boar. If he did by some chance get 3 1/1 token out here, or even 2 blockers, and I did not have a pump for this Kiln Fiend, being able to have this other creature in play just pretty much seals the fact that I can win the game on this turn, like I should have the previous turn. So he does play 2 creatures. You see, this is exactly what I was talking about. If I had not played this Boar, or even this Kiln Fiend, he would have been able to block the Hound and the Vampire, and allow the Kiln Fiend to go through, and just hope that I did not have a pump spell for it. And then he would have had yet another turn. You see, turn that Drake, he'd be able to put that into play. And these creatures are big enough where they have the 2 attack and would be able to kill the Hound. The Gravedigger couldn't kill it. And it would put me in a bad situation. But, I did make the smart play. I got the Boar. What I have to remember on this turn is to actually attack with all my creatures. As opposed to that last time where I left one at home. You see, I almost left the Kiln Fiend at home again, and that would have been, another misstep on my part. But now he has only 2 blockers, 2 life. It's going to be game over.